Welcome to Atlanta's Commercial Real Estate Show, brought to you by Bull Realty, the show for property owners and business leaders. Host Michael Bull brings you market analysis, advice, and opportunities around Atlanta.
Welcome back, and thank you for being with us on Atlanta's Commercial Real Estate Show. Well, we now have an expert who's in the trenches selling apartments every day here in the Atlanta area. Please welcome Scott Spalding. He's VP with the apartment group at Bull Realty here in Studio One. Scott, thanks for being with us.
Thank you for having me, Michael.
Well, Scott, the apartment market around Atlanta has certainly been hot. You're dealing with buyers and sellers every day. What's the market really like right now here in Atlanta?
Well, the demand across the country is real strong, but the demand is especially strong here in the Atlanta market, and that's largely due to the fact that Atlanta is still one of the top cities for jobs. It's estimated that we're going to get over 100 new great paying jobs in 2017. Also, we have very mild winters, and we have one of the best airports in the country. So not only are local investors looking to acquire more properties in their own backyard, but also investors from the gateway cities have a strong interest in Atlanta. The cap rates here in Atlanta are, much higher, as well as the price per units are much lower when you're comparing them to their home cities. As a matter of fact, I actually was in Los Angeles a few weeks ago touring a property in a historically low income neighborhood, and this property is probably a C- or C at best, and the owner turned down an offer of a 3.5 cap. So you can just only imagine what that does for the demand in a city like Atlanta.
Yeah, that's a good point, Scott. I mean, there's a lot of demand for rentals. The market's still growing tremendously, right, in the B and C. So what does that mean? Is it time to sell if you own apartments? We see interest rates are ticking up. The Fed has said they're going to get 2 bumps this year and maybe 2 or 3 bumps next year. If you own apartments in Atlanta, is it time to consider selling?
Well, each situation is different. We're going to look at the individual owner, the company, get a clear understanding of what their goals are, their capital stack, when are their maturities, what's going on at that specific property and the market. But if you look at where we are in the cycle, the rise in interest rates, and if you want to go out while everything's on top, now is a great time to exit a property or two. My team and I can evaluate your property, we'll look at the market, and if we determine that it's better for you to wait a year or two, that's what we'll tell you. But in most instances, it's a great time for investors to sell now.
Right. If you look at the old adage, right, buy low, sell high. And there's a lot of investors that do kind of time the cycles in the market, and we're certainly at an uptime. And if you look at the cost of funds financing, and if everybody says they're going to rise, we've been hearing that, but that's what everybody says.
You're right.
If you're watching the cycles, at least a time to consider it. Well, so let's say that I do want to sell and I want to consider the market. I've looked at what you think that the property would bring in the marketplace, and I do want to sell it. What are some tips for me as a seller to maximize value?
Well, the first thing that comes to mind is just your financial records. You want to have your records in a fashion that makes the property more financeable, and it's easier for buyers to understand the opportunity. Secondly, value is impacted by the laws of supply and demand, and that's true with apartments. So what you want to do is create as much buyer demand as possible so you can have a huge pool of buyers vying for your property. We have a very large national as well as local platform. In fact, on our website we have a language translator as well as a currency converter for our foreign investors. You want to go to the market in a very big way so you have a huge pool of buyers fighting for your properties. You want to ask your broker this one question though. Are you sharing fees with other brokers? Most sellers assume that they're sharing fees, but in reality most apartment brokers don't share fees, and that's a true disservice to the seller because that greatly reduces the buying pool and has a negative impact on the overall asset value. And lastly, I'll leave you with this. When you drive your property, how does it show? Picking up trash, cleaning gutters, landscaping are very inexpensive propositions but go a long way. And also, if your property is in need of any capital expenditures, you may want to get quotes for that, especially if that's something that you don't plan on doing.
Yeah, that's very important. At the end of the day, we are dealing with people, right?
Yes.
That are looking at your property, they're investing in their property. They may have investors as well. And I think, Scott, that's a great point about the sharing of fees. I sold apartments. That's all I worked on when I was a young agent. And I saw that when I shared fees with agents and I opened it up to a larger marketplace like that, I got higher offers and more offers than my friends at the big shops. And in fact, that's one of the reasons that I started my firm, was that I thought it lacked integrity to say, all right, I'm going to take it to a smaller database and then maybe a little bit bigger database. And I've seen some agents even interviewed in a book that said they trickle marketed like that. And it just lacks integrity and just lessens demand. Right?
And the sad thing about it is sellers have no idea that this is really going on.
That's true. That's true. Well, Scott, thanks for joining us. We appreciate you being on the show.
Thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure.
Yeah, and thank you for joining us out there on the radio stations, on iTunes, on YouTube, or maybe you're watching or listening on the show website, CREshow.com, and look for the Atlanta tab. And we appreciate you being with us. And if you will comment, let us know what you think on the comment section below. And if you're on YouTube, be sure to subscribe. Thanks for being with us, and we'll see you.